Where's my wife? She left the day you moved your secretary and she stood at the doorway, eyes glistening with unshed tears, the silence around her thicker than the lies she had been living with. Her suitcase trembling in her grip as she watched the man she once gave everything to bring in, the very woman she had suspected for months, the same one who had been lingering too long in conversations, smiling too often during late-night calls, and dressing just a little too deliberately every time she came over. And when the secretary stepped inside like she belonged, like she had been invited into a castle that was no longer someone else's kingdom, it broke something inside her that no glue could ever fix. She didn't scream or cry or accuse. Instead, she turned away, walked out the door, and vanished into the cold breath of Hungary's bitter night without another word, leaving behind nothing but her scent on the pillows and the soft echo of a love that used to be loud. And he didn't notice at first, too, drunk on desire and denial to realize the queen had left the castle, but when he woke up alone days later with lipstick stains on his collar and guilt dripping from his pores, the emptiness screamed louder than her silence ever did. He searched every room, called every friend, checked every hotel, but she was gone, and the only trace she left behind was the footage from a hidden camera she had installed months ago, knowing her suspicions would never be taken seriously unless proven. And the footage didn't just show the secretary flirting. It showed slow, seductive touching under the table, long stares when no one was looking, kisses stolen in dark corners, and moans muffled in the bathroom while she cooked dinner for the man she thought was her forever. And when he saw it, his knees buckled. He clutched his chest, breath hitching as the betrayal wrapped around his throat like a noose, and he broke down, collapsing in the very hallway where she once used to kiss him goodbye before work, where now only shadows of their love remained. She, meanwhile, had flown to a quiet retreat in the Hungarian countryside, crying under the moonlight, aching between her thighs not from pleasure but from the brutal pain of knowing she had given everything. Her body, her trust, her heart, to someone who had torn it all apart for a few cheap thrills and a set of legs. But as the days passed and her sorrow deepened, her resolve hardened, and she decided she wouldn't be a victim. No, she would become the storm that rewrote the ending, and so began her plan, a trap so intricate it was woven with every kiss she ever faked, every moan she ever forced, and every word she ever swallowed just to keep the peace. And she returned, not to forgive, but to conquer, wearing a dress that clung to every curve like a lover's hand, her eyes fierce with purpose, her lips painted with venom disguised as desire. And when she saw him again, he fell to his knees, begged, wept, touched her feet like a broken man praying for resurrection, but she only smiled, leaned in, whispered something hot and cruel into his ear that made him tremble, and dragged him to the bedroom where they once made love under fairy lights. Only this time, it wasn't love. It was war, and as she kissed him like a memory and touched him like a weapon, she made him feel every inch of pain she had endured, and then some, her mouth hot against his skin, her hands unrelenting, her body a temple of fury and seduction. And when she finally let him in, it wasn't for pleasure. It was for power, her moans a haunting lullaby that kept him dancing between heaven and hell, until the bed shook with raw intensity, until he begged for mercy she didn't give, until he cried beneath her, breathless and undone, until his legs gave out, until he bled from trying too hard to please the woman he broke. And she didn't stop, not until he passed out under her, unconscious, broken and exposed. She stood there, naked in moonlight, staring at the hidden camera she had placed this time, capturing every moment, every cry, every drop of blood, and she downloaded it all before slipping away, leaving him to wake up alone, confused, in pain and terrified, because he had no idea what would come next. He only knew something was coming, and that's when the phone rang, a private number flashing on the screen, and when he answered, the voice that spoke wasn't hers, but someone who knew everything, someone who laughed softly and said, "You shouldn't have trusted your secretary." And the line went dead, and the suspense returned, wrapping around him like a shroud, and he realized he wasn't just being punished. He was being hunted, piece by piece, heart first, and just as he reached for his pants to escape, he found something tucked inside the pocket. A note written in her handwriting, a single sentence that shattered him again. "The pain has only just begun." He sat on the edge of the bed with the note clenched in one shaking hand, blood still drying where passion had turned violent, his lips swollen from hours of desperate kissing and pleading, his body sore not from pleasure but punishment, and his mind swirled with fear, regret, and unbearable guilt, because he realized too late that he had not been forgiven. He had been marked, and what started as seduction had become retribution. A slow unraveling of everything he thought he controlled, and now, with each passing minute, he felt her presence like a ghost that refused to let him sleep, haunting his mirrors, his memories, his dreams, and the more he replayed their last night together, the more he saw how calculated it all had been. From the moment she returned with tears hidden behind a smile, to the way her fingers had slid down his chest like knives dipped in honey, to the exact moment he felt pleasure and pain blur into one long moan. And yet he hadn't stopped her, couldn't stop her. Because deep inside he craved the punishment. He longed for her fire, her revenge, her brutal love that made him feel alive again, even as it destroyed him. And days passed with no calls, no signs, just silence thick enough to drown in, until an email arrived from an unknown sender containing a single video file, and when he opened it, the screen flickered to life with footage of himself tied to the bed, begging, moaning, weeping beneath her, caught in angles only a hidden camera could capture, showing every moment in full detail. His broken body, her power, his surrender, her dominance, and as he watched himself being reduced to nothing by the very woman he once ignored. He broke again, sobbing, shaking, ashamed, but unable to look away, especially when the camera zoomed into her face, beautiful, dangerous, triumphant, and her voice, soft but venomous, whispered, "Now you know how it feels to be used." And then the screen went black. But that wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. Because she had sent copies to more than just him. To friends, family, even his company's board of directors. And while he tried to do damage control, rumors began to spread, whispers about his bedroom collapse and the woman who had brought a king to his knees. And then the secretary, the one he once thought was worth losing everything for, vanished without notice, her apartment cleaned out, her phone disconnected, and her name linked to scandals that didn't exist until the footage began leaking. To select people. Those who mattered, those whose opinions could destroy, and soon the pressure broke him professionally, too, as deals fell through and partners walked away. And in the midst of his downfall, another package arrived, this time containing photos. Intimate shots from their marriage, happy moments now weaponized against him, paired with receipts, timelines, hotel bookings, printed screenshots, and hidden messages she had decoded from his past lies. All laid out in a thick folder. Labeled Truth. And inside was one final note. You lied for months. Planned for weeks. You begged for hours. I'll make you bleed for years. That night, he drank himself unconscious, hoping for silence, but awoke not to peace but to fire alarms blaring, smoke choking his throat, the kitchen in flames from a knocked-over candle, and as firefighters dragged him out, coughing, half-naked, humiliated. He saw a familiar face in the crowd. Her watching, calm, almost amused, like a queen observing her revenge unfold, and when their eyes met, she blew him a kiss before disappearing once again into the night. And this time he didn't chase her because he knew she didn't want to be found. She wanted him to feel lost, and he was truly, utterly lost, in a world where he once held control but now stumbled through the ruins of his own mistakes. His nights plagued by dreams of her voice, her body, the smell of her skin and the heat of that night when sex became a sentence, when her touch turned into truth, when her cries became commands, and her kisses felt like confessionals where he spilled every sin under the weight of her breath. And while he bled from old wounds reopened by guilt, she rebuilt herself in silence, stronger, more dangerous, a phoenix born from the ashes of betrayal, and she smiled again. Not because she missed him, but because she no longer did. And as she walked through a quiet street in a new city, a hidden camera in her purse captured the next man who dared approach her with too many smiles and not enough truth, because she wasn't just healing. She was hunting, and the game had just begun, and the final twist. He received one last video, a message recorded before she ever left, months before the affair even began, of her speaking calmly into the lens, saying, "If you're watching this, it means I was right about you." And as the screen faded to black, the only sound was the echo of her laughter, cold, beautiful, and unforgettable, and he realized with a final shiver that he hadn't been the one playing the game at all. He was only ever her practice.